Joining us now, Shannon Liss Reardon, a partner at Lichten and Liss Reardon. She's an employment lawyer representing 2,000 former Twitter employees in individual arbitration, as well as over a dozen class action lawsuits related to the company's treatment of workers after Elon Musk bought the company. Thanks so much for joining us. We're having you on because there's an attempt to get rid of so many federal workers through a buyout offer. And it mirrors exactly what happened to Twitter, what Elon Musk offered Twitter employees, same email and everything. Were the Twitter employees actually given the money that was promised?
No. The reason that we have 2,000 individual arbitrations against Twitter is because the employees were promised that if they lost their jobs after Musk took over Twitter, they would receive a certain generous amount of severance. And they didn't receive it. None of them received it. So that is why we have all of these cases and these lawsuits and arbitrations. And I heard it just said by your prior guests that none of these players, including Trump and Musk, ever seem to lose lawsuits. Well, I'm not allowed to talk openly about the results of our arbitrations because they're currently under seal and confidential. But I will just say this. I'm feeling good about our cases.
So when you're looking at what happened, that's interesting, number one, that you're feeling good. It says a lot without saying much. When you're looking at what is being offered of the federal workers, what is your advice to them about whether to take this buyout and the promised 8 months of pay?
So we've been getting contacted by federal employees from across agencies, across the government, across the country. And it has been very difficult to give solid advice because no one knows exactly what's going to happen. Trying to take a page from what we learned from the Twitter fiasco is the following. I'm giving federal employees the same advice that I gave Twitter employees who came to me on November 17th, 2022, when they were faced with the same fork in the road email. And I told people, you got to make your own individual decision about what you think is best for you and your family. There are lots of concerns about whether what is being promised to the employees is legal and whether it is even enforceable. And it is just hard to say. It's hard to answer those questions right now. But individually, I will say the following. For federal employees who want to get out of there or who are thinking about retiring, for their individual purposes, it might not be a bad thing to take this and see where the cards fall. And if they don't end up getting what they were promised, it is tricky to sue the federal government. But I have some confidence in the rule of law, and I can't imagine that these very explicit promises made to people could not be enforced. Now, there are a number of employees who are basically being threatened with being terminated. And for those employees, I know there's a lot of concern. Unions are telling employees, don't take this buyout. A lot of federal employees who've been in touch with us have said, I'm not going to give into this. And I completely respect that and understand that. But for employees who are under threat of being fired, they may have a legal claim later or they may not. And taking the chance that you could get 8 months severance might not be a bad idea. There were some Twitter employees, in fact.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Finish your thought, then I'll ask you the question.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm just going to say there are a lot of Twitter employees who rejected the fork in the road and committed to staying with Twitter 2.0, as Elon put it, being hardcore, agreed to work long hours at high intensity, and only to get fired a week later on the eve of Thanksgiving without any severance at all. So, there are a lot of federal employees who are facing the same threat. So, I mean, the advice that I'm giving to individual employees is different, of course, from what I feel for our country right now. This is such a helter-skelter way to cut the workforce, even if that is the policy goal. We're going to lose people with incredible expertise and experience. And I don't know how these agencies are all going to be able to function if so many of those employees with experience like that do end up leaving. But I have advice that I'm giving to individual employees who are contacting us, and I've got my big picture concerns about the legality of what is happening here.
Let me ask you this, though. In terms of that 8-month promise of pay, Congress is about to go into another spending battle. And there's no guarantee that if they're in a spending battle, that there's going to be allocation to pay off federal workers who are no longer working. I imagine that would be, if you're trying to cut costs, an easy area to slash. So if you're banking on 8 months' pay, but we're coming up to a budget battle in just a few weeks' time, that's a month of pay, maybe 2 months of pay before suddenly you're gone.
It's by no means is it assured that these employees are going to get what they're being promised. I'm just saying that if they don't get what's promised, I expect there will be a legal claim that could be brought. I can't guarantee what the result is going to be because, like I said, it is tricky to sue the federal government. Federal spending has not been authorized past March 15th. If the federal debt limit does not get raised again, and I read an editorial just this morning that maybe Trump isn't even going to support the raising of the debt limit, which has always happened when we've run up against a debt limit. Maybe he wants to see what it looks like if the federal government really just shuts down for a lengthy period. There are so many unknowns. I'm just saying that employees right now need to make, individually, they need to make their own decision about what's best for them. But again, I am really concerned about what our country is facing, the loss of expertise and experience we may be about to face, and just the situation we have where the federal workforce is just being slashed, like Twitter, with so little thought about what it actually takes to keep things running, and decisions being made by people who have no idea how these agencies operate, who is actually needed, what's important to keep things going. It's extremely concerning.
Yeah, they
Same
appear to
thing
be
happened
making
at Twitter.
And Twitter, lots of functions were lost and then had to be rebuilt. But again, the federal government's not Twitter, and they appear to be making the bet that the federal government doesn't need a lot to function and that they can cut out most of it. We'll see if that's the case. Shannon Liss Reardon.
And Twitter is just a shell of what it was. So
yeah, that's true.
We're all thinking about the federal government. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Shannon Liss Reardon, thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate it.